Hi, my name is Debbie Laguerre, and today we're going to be talking about how memes and reaction pictures impact our cultural society through social media. This time, we're going to be using course concepts such as signs, code switching, authority, and mediation. And I also interviewed three of my friends, Karam, Aya, and Najee. Previously, we talked about this specific topic through a lens of signs, culture, speech acts, and inscripts versus transcripts. Last time we talked about it, we talked about the different types of memes. We talked about the indexicality of memes. We talked about icons and symbols and how we can translate that into our everyday lives to impact our culture and to basically change how we interact with each other. Another way that we talked about it was with frames. We use different memes for different types of occasions and frames, different types of people, languages, and etc. We also talked about inscripts versus transcripts at the end of last oral presentation. I left you with a question, which is what do you think memes stayed in scripts or became transcripts over time? And a lot of people had a lot to say, and I think that memes, as time goes on, they stay in scripts because memes come in and out of style and fashion. As human beings, we're always super eager to we love making jokes, and memes is a way that we translate that through. And memes don't always just die out; they always come back different types of styles. And because nothing on the internet is really ever gone, there's always someone who's going to be able to interact with that, essentially. So in this video, we're going to be talking about signs first, but we're going to be talking about it through the lens of an index rather than icons and symbols, although those are also very important. So an index is something that points to something else. So it's kind of like fire pointing to smoke. Memes are very much like that. Certain memes point to certain emotions and certain situations that a lot of people can relate to and go through. The two types of memes we're going to be talking about are reaction memes and scripted memes. Reaction memes are what we talked about the majority of last video, but if you don't remember, these are some examples of reaction memes. They're usually seen in TikTok comment sections. A lot of it is translated in real life, and it translates very easily because you could recreate a lot of the reactions. You could do the biting your nail reaction in real life in an actual conversation with someone. Another one is the scripted memes. Scripted memes are a lot less common in real life because you have to have heavy video context to know what's going on. So scripted memes could look like this. And yeah, we're going to be talking about how my interviewees experience them. So these are some of their favorite reaction memes versus scripted memes. And they basically talked about how they mostly see them in Instagram and TikTok, and how, like I said previously, reaction memes make the majority of their stickers. It's a new function on iPhone, but also just their life reactions. One of my interviewees, said that through these reactions, you can exude more human emotions. It's similar to emojis, but kind of like an elevated version where you could talk more, you could express more of your emotions without just texting or sending an emoji. We're also going to be talking about code switching. So code switching is similar to what we talked about before in terms of frames, but instead of switching based on the situation, we're going to be talking about switching based on exclusion versus inclusion. So in the article for that reading, we talked about DeLeon. DeLeon wrote that article, and the focus was on how Mexican youth started using Spanish to talk to their classmates and their friends, and because it was more romantic than their native tongue, and because they could use Spanish, it also excluded the elders and the parents in their lives, giving them independency. This is also similar and very true in terms of memes, but rather than using memes specifically to hide a lot of things, our generation uses it mainly to like connect with each other on a deeper level that other generations might not understand. One of my first interviewee, which was Aya, she talked about how for certain memes, Gen Z would be able to understand it almost immediately and make the connection, but millennials might take a little more time to understand it. And while millennials have limits to their memes and like what they make fun of, essentially, Gen Z has no limit. We're gonna make memes about World War III. We did, and we talk about anything and everything. And because we do that, our code switching kind of leaves out different millennials who might like also be in a conversation, but they don't understand what we're referencing because our way of speaking kind of excludes their generation. My other interviewee, Karam, is from Jordan, and he talked about how in Jordan they make memes and kind of like embarrass like jokes about other regions. They kind of like code switch based on that, and instead of like it being a general thing in Jordan, like certain regions will understand certain code switches in memes that they reference to make fun of another region that others might not understand. My third interviewee, Najee, he also talked about how Gen Z has no limit, but instead of not having a limit, he really focused on the authority, the audience that he's talking to. So certain people might not be able to understand certain memes, and because like he could be in a conversation with multiple people, but he makes a certain joke towards like an anime reference or an anime meme that a lot of people won't understand, but he's specifically targeting one person in that conversation. So that's one way that a meme could be exclusionary without context or explanation. Another course concept that we can apply to this is authority. Who chooses which memes become popular and that everybody starts using? Like, how does a meme become a staple meme? Through interviewing my interviewees, they basically said that they concluded that nobody really decides to give the order, everybody has to follow this meme. Nobody is like the headmaster and is making or forcing anybody to do certain things. Memes kind of go through a process that makes them staples and makes them known not only nationally but globally. Through the authorization index, we can definitely see this. As we talked in class, there are 7 types of authorization indexes, and memes make up for 3 different types of those indexes. The first one is processing. Memes are peer-reviewed by like the global population, so anybody who sees the video is essentially peer-reviewing it and deciding if it's the second course process is worldview, is deciding if it's relatable or not, or if it's like worthy of sharing or worthy of becoming like a staple meme. So it goes through peer review and then worldview and then finally mediation or media legs. Memes oftentimes, or like through social media, memes aren't only talked about to one person. Oftentimes when you post a meme or a video, it reaches a global audience. So that alone reinforces like the authority of a meme. Even though you don't know who exactly started the meme, through my interviews, none of my interviewees really knew where every single meme came from, like every reaction pic. They didn't know who started it or who the person is, but they know that it's like generally used by their peers and everybody around them. So that's how they see it as gaining authority and becoming like an actual thing in their daily lives. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk.